Something like this is going to be able to give you that multi-cam look in your wedding videos without actually having to have multiple cameras. G'day guys, Josh Huggett here from Huggett Media, and today we are going to talk about what is in this bag and why, if you are a starting wedding videographer, you should probably get yourself one. Today we are talking about the YC Onion Pineta Monopod. Monopods aren't something that I've ever really had too much to do with in my wedding photography and videography career. However, now that I have one, I really wish it was something that I actually brought into my arsenal so much longer ago, just for like those more run and gun events like wedding photography. Something like a monopod is actually a really valuable piece of kit to add. We all know tripods. Tripods are hard to work with. They're cumbersome. They take up a lot of space. They're quite heavy to work with. So the alternative to that is then you go handheld or you use like a gimbal. I never really got around to using a gimbal. Didn't really match my sort of style of like how I like to run around and be a little bit more chaotic with my movements. But there were moments where I needed more of like a steady shot, like we're sitting there and we're filming the vows, or if you're filming the speeches or something like that, especially in these more highlight film based wedding films. And that's somewhere that something like this would come in really handy. First, we're going to open the box and have a look at what's inside. I'm going to run you through a few of the features very quickly, and then we're going to talk briefly about how this could actually really help you, an aspiring wedding photographer, videographer, or the both. So let's open it up. It does come in this beautiful little box here, which was really handy. I might actually just switch to a different microphone now that I think about this out loud. All right, that should give me a bit more room to actually move around now without hitting stuff. Does come in this nice gray case here as well. A little bit of a logo here, nothing too major, nothing that's gonna stand out and say, hey, there's a monopod in here. What I do like about this bag is not only does it zip from the top, like up here, without dog hair in it, but then you can actually follow that zip all the way down the entire case, really opening it up so that you can keep extra stuff like the handle and some other bits and pieces in here. I haven't really had a use for this in my testings. We have brought it to a couple of weddings now, but this is the monopod. What an absolute marvel of engineering this is. Again, it's a sleek looking monopod. It's not like some fucking bird nerd's monopod. This is a good looking piece of kit, carbon fiber. The best bit about this monopod here is that they claim that it's the fastest monopod in the world, and I would have to agree that it is pretty bloody fast. This handle here is actually the only handle that you need to use to operate the entire thing, which is fucking ridiculously good. Where this comes into its own is this. Done. Just that handle. Done. Running around with a monopod, it does have a rubberized end here as well, so that you don't have to worry about it slipping on the floors. It's not going to slip away from you easily. It does have a handle here so that you are able to keep hold of it and you're not actually going to drop it. And it actually goes pretty tall too. Like again, I'm 6'6". I feel like I say this in so many videos, but I'm 6'6", and having that coming up to my chin, that's pretty much eye level for me. If you put a camera on top of here, you're just below eye level. I feel like I'm in Star Wars or something. Anyway, it does have these 3 legs down the bottom as well, so you can actually bring it out and get a little bit more stable. Now again, monopods aren't made to be left alone, so I wouldn't be using this as a tripod. Obviously, it's not going to be the most structurally sound. A little bit of wind's going to move that around if you are looking at filming stupidly extended periods of time. That's where a tripod comes in. However, for run and gun style photography or videography, this is going to come in absolutely clutch. The ability to like run up during speeches or something, or the vows are happening and you're here and you're able to film someone's vows without having to like hold your camera down at your waist. Do it with a boxy. Typically, if you're a wedding videographer and you're like filming speeches or something and you don't have a multi-cam tripod setup, I remember when I first started doing this, I only had like 2 cameras. That's all I could afford at the time. One was the Canon 80D and one was the original R6. So I would set my Canon 80D at the back of the room so that I could film the entire area, and I would have that on a tripod, and then I would run around the ceremony or the reception with like doing the speeches with one camera in my hand, locking my elbows in, and then just trying to create like as stable a picture as possible. However, with something like a monopod, which is something I wish I fucking knew existed, you're able to still get that run and gun style footage, placing a camera on top, but you do get that extra stability of actually having it on that monopod and then picking that up very easily, running to the next side, getting your next clip, running to the next side, getting your next clip. Mid-ceremony, you're able to get the vows as well. You're able to go from one side of the ceremony, set up, get this person saying their vows. That way you've got one camera at the back of the room filming that. If you drop it from here, that's going to be loud and people are going to notice you during a ceremony. However, you can do more of like a silent operation by being a little bit more careful. Being that it's made entirely of carbon fiber, it is very, very sturdy. I don't think I need to say that, but I'll say it out loud. Anyway, my biggest concern when I was looking at this monopod is something like if you're filming speeches, let's say, and then somebody's moving and something happens at a different level of height. So like if you can't get it from here and you need a bit of a different angle, there is a foot pedal down here. See this little foot pedal here? If you push that down, you actually get access to the entire movement of the monopod. So you don't need to worry about it being stuck in one position. Then you can also spin it as well. All you need to do is push that button again and it's going to lock back in. So if you're filming speeches like this, something happens, you can go down, you can film down here. If there's like kids crying or kids on the floor, you can come back up here, you can film the speeches, you can move around like this freely to get different angles. But if you need that solid shot again, you quickly push that button, back. So good, so good. My God, I wish I had this when I started. Again, this isn't a tripod, so don't be thinking like, oh, I'll buy this and I'll just use it as a tripod that does everything. It's like, it's not that. It's made for run and gun. Run, film something, pick it up, easy to go, run. Another good feature is the quick ability to take off the head. If you are filming something and you're concerned that something's happening over there, you click these two buttons, you've got this off. You're ready to film. Straight back on, click, back, safe. Not going anywhere. Back, something else is happening. You click those two buttons, you take your camera off, you're able to run over here, you're able to film something over here, you can come around and then you go back, you find where you set your monopod down, push the buttons, you're locked back in, you're back on monopod. This is so good. If I could turn back time, my life and my original wedding videos would be so much better than they were. That's probably the only way this could get better, is if there was like an easier way to bring these up like with your foot, but I don't know if you'd ever really need to do that. At the top here you do have your standard screw that you would be using so that you're actually able to put more accessories on here. If you wanted to put a light or a recorder, you do have one of those on either side. This is the button here. These two buttons here are the buttons that lock it and unlock it so that you're able to take off the head very easily. Super easy to use. You can lock it into position, so once that's locked, this handle isn't going down at all, which means you are currently locked in that position. This is that handle. This is that beautiful carbon fiber. Carbon fiber as well, and then this is where obviously the legs go inside themselves. I did have another version of this before this one came out, which was a quick release. However, this handle is so fucking good. It's such a game changer. All right, let's talk about how we could use this as a wedding videographer and make our lives a little bit easier. Typically on a wedding day, you are shooting a little bit more of like run and gun style footage. You're at the boys getting ready or the girls getting, like person one, person two is getting ready. You're running from room to room, trying to capture what's happening. You're not really setting up tripods. If you don't want to go the route of like a gimbal shooter or like a shoulder harness, like with a fucking wire coming down, there's not really many other options other than being completely handheld and having to hold the camera and try to stay as stable as possible. Something like a monopod is that in between of like not having 4 tripods set up at a ceremony, because if you're only filming a highlight film and you're not filming the entire ceremony on multiple cameras, then something like this is going to be a really lightweight option without having to worry about carrying like 4 different tripods, because this is the size of a tripod folded down. It does come with its own bag as well, but you're able to get a lot steadier footage of things that you would have otherwise been hand holding. If I had my time again and I was starting out, I don't do as much video these days as I used to, but if I was starting out again, something like this would actually really elevate my ability to create videos purely based on the fact that the footage would be steadier. Let's go back to talking head. Something like this in your wedding kit, not only is it going to make you look a little bit more professional, being that you're coming to a wedding with more kit than you normally would. When I first started out, I was coming to a wedding with like a camera with a microphone and stuff on it. I was shooting into dual SD cards and I was doing all those safe things, but just turning up with a camera and saying that you're a professional videographer is very different than coming with something like this that people will be like, oh wow, like it kind of draws a little bit of attention while you're working, but not so much attention that you're setting up like 4 or 5 tripods at a ceremony, especially if you can't afford 4 or 5 camera bodies. Something like this is going to be able to give you that multi-cam look in your wedding videos without actually having to have multiple cameras. You could get away with only having 2 cameras, have one wide at the back of the room, which is filming the entire ceremony, and then having something like this so that you're able to get steady footage of each person saying their vows without having to handhold it and get shaky footage or like get sore arms. We've taken it to a few weddings now. We've been using it in those exact manners. Lewis had good things to say. He's my main videographer, for those of you that don't know who Lewis is.
Oh, thanks, man.
He had good things to say about it. Doesn't replace a multicam setup for a ceremony. Doesn't replace a multicam setup for the speeches. However, in its own little niche of where it kind of sits in the wedding photography market, I feel like this would be a pretty sick addition, especially to those newer people that like are starting videography that don't have multiple cameras. Even if you had 2 to 3 cameras, you could set up, you know, 1 on each person and then have this one at the back of the room. That way you're able to kind of move and pivot where if someone's walking down the aisle, rather than just having one steady cam, you could use this to pivot and film someone walking down the aisle whilst then setting it up at the back as like a tripod-esque type shot. Anyway, we've been playing with this for a couple of weeks. I think it's fucking great. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you've got any questions about this monopod, chuck it in the comment section down below and I will get to them as soon as I possibly can. Until I see you in the next one. Love ya.